is Sheshin.
Watchfulness.
Okay.
Of being recollecting that object all the time.
So we usually, Sheshin, we're really good at it, right? When it relates to other people's faults. But we're really good at Sheshin. We're very, our watchfulness is like, she did that.
That was her fault.
It's so true, right? We have a very well developed Sheshin. It's just towards someone else. It's true. It's so true. I caught myself doing it. Stephen said something to me yesterday that tipped something that had been overflowing, and the poor bastard got this whole vomit. But it was just my Sheshin, out towards other people, and he got the brunt of it, He's like, why me? I didn't know what I did, and like I couldn't even engage with him. But the more I think about it, is the more I let something build up unconscious, and that's what your mind does. These enemies are inside you, building up energies that you then have to deal with if you're not watching them at the door. So, whatever he said just came out, and I just like, I'm not doing that, and I'm not doing that, and I'm tired of doing that, and he just asked a question, right? And in my mind, that question was loaded with 1,000 things. I didn't even know I had that many strings of connections to the question. So we usually Sheshin towards other people, right? They should be doing that, and if they're not doing that, I'm upset, and if they're not doing that, that was my particular affliction yesterday, and all last week and the week before.
I proposed.
So just don't Sheshin others, right? Sheshin yourself. Sheshin yourself. And Master Shantideva gives us two practical, beautiful practices as you're walking around, right? With Drempa and Sheshin by your side throughout New York City. He gives you two practices, and he does a whole string of things afterwards to remind you how to build that force. And the first one is called eyeball meditation, right? And I'm like, what? I'm calling it eyeball meditation. He gives 4 points of how to control your gaze, and he says this practice will prevent you from having the distraction that gets Sheshin away from its object. Yeah? There are daily distractions that we undergo, and in particular in Manhattan, and in particular in the modern world through your iPhone and the rest. Controlling your eyeballs is one practice that you can do to stop the things that interrupt your watchfulness. Yeah? So he's saying, as you're walking down the street, look down. As you're walking down the street, and I remember the first time I got this, and somehow I'd forgotten, I have aspects of it, but I hadn't done it with as much fervor as I did at the beginning, and I did it on the way here, and my God, it was perfect. It was perfect because he gives 4 pieces of instruction. The first thing is, as you're walking around, you've got something on your mind from the beginning of the day, right? You're going to take down one of those mental afflictions, or you're going to build up a practice. That's your Drempa for the day, right? He says pick one. So you're picking a practice for the day. To stay on that object, you want to minimize distraction so Sheshin can be aware of what's happening, right? If you're letting in pride, or if you're letting in an affliction. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah? He's saying one practice, you have complete control of your eyelids. Not only your eyelids can shut. Yeah, you can control your eyeballs. And so bring your gaze down, and as you're walking, just look at the path. Don't look up, don't get distracted by the sound over there, just be completely focused. There's nothing at all in the world that needs your attention more than you fixing that thing. And I remember when Geshe Michael was teaching me, he's like, New York is just a house full of distractions. Yeah? Not only that, if you don't want to do the practice, he goes, walk around for 2 days and look at everything. Just look at absolutely everything for 2 days. There's nothing new in New York. It'll be there tomorrow. And you know this to be true. If you stop watching TV and then 5 years later you turn on the TV, it's exactly the same scenario, different faces, right? If you've watched a movie at all, it's exactly the same sequence, just different effects. It's just, there's nothing in the world that's going to need your attention more than the thing that's keeping you here in cycles. So you better keep your Sheshin for that. He goes, he even said, even if Buddhism isn't true and none of this works, it doesn't matter. There's nothing else that needs your attention more than you watching your mind, and building some positivity in your mind. So the eyeball, the 4 advices on the eyeball is: number 1, keep your gaze down. Just walk and watch the pavement, and as you do that, there's nothing distracting. Oh, nice this and nice that, and I should buy that, and I should do that, and I should say hi to that, and whatever. Your mind is forever focused on every step of the way. You're aware of what your mind is doing with pride. You're knowing where you're single focused. You're building single focus on what you're about to do, etc. on your one practice.
Seems like a version of that now is putting your phone on airplane mode.
Exactly, putting your phone on airplane mode. Beautiful, it's that. It's turning off the distractions. So dropping the gaze. Number 2 is, if you're getting tired of that and you see your mind's getting sluggish, look up to refresh. Just look up and refresh. It's funny because I tried all these things on my way here. It was beautiful. Especially the 3rd one, which Master Shantideva goes into some detail. If you bump into somebody that needs to say hello to you, he says, don't be weird, just act normal, say hi back, it's okay. Just like engage with a normal person, but you don't have to make a whole big thing about it, And sure enough, as soon as I left, I'm like, I wonder who I'm going to bump into, because I only looked down on my way up here, except for the 4th one, which is, as you're looking up to refresh, don't forget to check for traffic, robbers, and things that might get you. So take care of your body, which is the 4th one, right? When you look up to refresh, look around for any danger. It's number 4. Number 3 is, if you bump into somebody, don't be weird. Just talk to them, say hi. And so I was thinking on my way here, okay, who am I going to run into? That's because usually things like this happen, right? When you put energy into a karma, usually they come. So sure enough, I did my gaze and I laughed. I remembered, it's so funny how karma works. Here I am putting all this effort and energy into looking at the pavement, and all the beautiful karmas that I planted for the years that I did this practice really well at the beginning just came flooding back, unstained, but grown, beautiful, beautiful. The looking out was just, don't get run over by a truck. But I was waiting for, if this magic happens, I'm bumping into somebody, and sure enough, I bumped into Ari from the mobile shop just around the corner here. He's never in this part of town, right? And I'm walking around and I hear, Hector! And I'm like, oh, here it is. Don't act weird. So I'm like, oh, so I actually, it was a surprise to see him. Usually I'm looking ahead and I can see people and I can tell. It was such a beautiful surprise to see him. And lucky for me, he's like, oh man, it's so good to see you. I'm sorry, I have to rush, okay? And I'm like, oh, no problem, excellent. Off you go, and then I made it to class on time. So that's his 4 advices on controlling your eyeballs.
The 4th is which?
When you look up to refresh, check for danger. Check for robbers, he says, and other things. So the other piece of advice he gives is, when is it okay to let go on this tight scrutiny of your mind, right? When is it okay to not be so vigilant as to keep Sheshin and Drempa constantly on guard, watching single pointers? No, there's three times where he says it's okay. When your life is threatened, which is hardly ever. When you're celebrating with great joy some kind of offering to the 3 jewels. And I remember this particular class, we did it at the Quakers church on 15th Street, I think. And we actually gave Bodhisattva vows on this night, at this class in 97, I think. And so we were excited because we could let go of Sheshin, because we're going to celebrate after the ceremony. We're going to throw petals in the air and be happy that so we could let go a little bit. And then when it's of great benefit to some sentient being, it's also okay to not be constantly going, am I on the object and is the alarm bell going, because the focus of me that I choose for my life today, the practice I'm choosing to grow, the karma I'm choosing to grow, it could be any one of the many vows as well. Today, this is my focus. You decide. Don't let life decide and circumstance and just the movement of karma decide. You decide what you're developing. You have that capacity. I don't know where it came from, but you have that capacity. So grow it. You decide. There's nothing more important than what you decide to become in this world. The message here is you're going to decide what you're going to become by choosing which practices or which things specific to you you need to reduce or you need to increase. So use these beautiful tools from Master Shantideva to do that. Then he goes into the order of the 6 perfections. Because somebody throws an argument saying to him that Sheshin is really keeping watch of your morality, which is the second of the perfections, right? So it's like, how can doing that be the first of the perfections if everybody knows that there is a sequence to the perfection? So because of that, we go into the sequence of the perfections. The 6 perfections actually mirror the first of the 10 Bodhisattva levels, bhumis, yeah? Discussed at another time. So what are the 6 perfections in order? Generosity or giving, yeah? Ethical way of living, patience or not getting angry when you're supposed to, joyful effort, which means being happy about doing good things, concentration, which is we've just finished discussing, is part of wisdom, right? They build on each other. They come in the Bodhisattva bhumis as in progression order. The second one is more profound than the first, and the third is more profound than the second, and so on. Because as you level up, now you're doing them all the time anyway. So it's not that they are sequential, like you've perfected giving, now I move on to ethics. You can't do one without the other. They are this symbiotic relationship between all of them. But at the perfecting level, they actually, the energy from one pushes them and helps perfect the other. So that's a way to describe it. So how does giving give way to ethics? Think about this. I mean, I can tell you the answer, but I'd like you to try and think about how is it that giving could give way to ethics?
Because
generosity, having that perfection.
When you, as a bodhisattva, decide that you're going to give all of you for the goodness of every being, you're willing to sacrifice and take any pain and any difficulty to live a moral life.
Interesting. I like the first half. Mm-hmm.
Is it because there's something in giving that is like letting go of your attachment, and when you let go of your attachment you get a virtue, and that virtue would lead you to understand a little bit more why it was important to have ethics.
So nice. No, it naturally leads to ethics. That's so good. It's a little closer to him. It's good.
Giving is the opposite of greed.
So in giving, you let go of your attachment. When you're not attached to anything, you're not going to do any stupid negative karma to protect that something. So you've let go on, like you're willing to give people what they need, yeah? And so you're reducing your attachment to objects, internal and external, yeah? And so you're not protecting them by doing stupid things and hurting other people to get. So that leads to ethics that way, yeah, according to Master Shantideva.
It's also the same for aversion, I think, because to be generous, equanimity, and you have to tackle
Aversion meaning the rejection.
Like
yeah.
I want to give to you, but I don't want to give to you.
Right. Yeah, so that's ethics too. Yeah. How does ethics lead to the third perfection, which is patience, not getting angry? I've got to check to make sure I'm telling you the.
Well,
Your mind's not agitated, maybe?
for me, it's recognizing that you would be harming someone by expressing anger towards them.
So let's look at patience as a kind of endurance, yeah, a kind of ability that you're enduring some things, yeah. The practice of ethics, by watching your ethics, you are enduring whatever spiritual progression you need to go through, right? What would you endure in order to get enlightened? Really, if you could get enlightened, what are you capable of enduring? Is it cold? Is it a little bit of hunger? To keep your ethics, right? What you're building up this kind of endurance, which that endurance reduces the chances of you going crazy and getting angry, yeah? And also of, okay, let's go from the, you got that connection?
Yeah.
Yeah? So I was going to jump to the next one. Building that endurance, not getting angry, how does that lead to?
Joyful effort.
Joyful effort.
If you're not angry,
You're mostly doing good things.
you're feeling
You're
good.
watching yourself doing good things, right? Which then says you build joy about the effort you're putting in the previous one. And joyful effort, how does that lead to meditation? Concentration, the capacity to
Concentrate, because you're not doing those negative deeds, your mind is more calm.
it's actually all focused on goodness. So it's all according to, it's all of the activity is all, it's one big deed. And the one big deed is goodness. And that's what you're joyful about. And that habituates the capacity to stay single point and therefore concentrate. And concentration leading to wisdom.
Meditation needs
How?
calm mind.
Perception.
Still in the mind, you get to the profound, yeah, the essence of the true nature of how things arise. Beautiful. Lastly, second practice. First practice to keep your sheshin was eyeball meditation, right? Control your eyelids. To stop any non-virtue coming in, you can close your eyelids or you can look down. Yeah? You might like the sexy figure of the person over there, but you're with your partner, close your eyelids, look down. The subtlest non-virtue, you shut them down. You can't do that with your ears, you can't do that with your nose, but at least you can do it with your eyeballs. So he says, do eyeball meditation, do control your eyelids and your eyeballs. Any non-virtue, shut it down. Yeah. The second one, he calls it freeze like a lump on a log, become a log. When to freeze, the perfection of when to freeze, and he gives 20 plus examples of when you just freeze. When, if Drempa has lost its object, today you're working on pride, okay? And if Drempa lost pride altogether, Drempa's gone to sleep, and Sheshin hasn't yet woken up. When Sheshin wakes up and says, hey, pride's in the door, another practice, Master Shantideva says, is freeze like a log, right? In other words, don't follow through on an action of body, speech, or mind. And the examples he gives here, I'll just give them to you. When to freeze like a log. When you're catching yourself, when you're Sheshin in yourself, liking things ignorantly. Halfway through the thing, mentally, physically, or verbally, stop. Look schizophrenic to your friends, it doesn't matter. Just stop halfway through, even if it's mid-sentence, even if it's mid-action, even if it's mid-thought. Even if you look like a zombie, he says that you look like a zombie at some point, because you're like...
He said zombie.
I think so, the translation was zombie. Yeah. When you dislike things ignorantly, when you watch yourself with pride, when you have, do you see a pattern here? He's listing the 20 secondary
lieutenants.
lieutenants. Thank you. When you're praising yourself, when you're criticizing others, whenever you're arguing, where you're yelling at somebody, when verse after verse after verse, he says, do that. You guys have 5 minutes to hear the verses. I think they're beautiful. Yeah. And I've prepared this earlier. Geshe Michael did with his. Can you pass this to the Honourable David? And you understand now, David, right? Which is all the parts that.
Yeah. How far do you want me to go?
Until the end of that class.
All right.
Yeah, which is about 3 pages, 4 pages. You got it? This is whenever
Whenever I feel that.
Yeah. So this is Master Shantideva on when to freeze like a log.
Whenever I feel a wish to move, or any wish at all to express myself, I will first check my own mind. I resolve firmly to act in accord with what is right. Whenever I feel as though I want to have attachment, or else anger, I should keep from going into action. I should keep from speaking out. I should stay as a bump on a log. Suppose I feel agitation, or an urge to humiliate someone, or pride, or else conceit. Suppose it occurs to me that I should expose another person's faults, or deceive another by pulling the wool over their eyes. Or suppose that a time comes that I feel the urge to sing my own praises, disparage others, or else contend. In every situation, I should stay like a bump on a log. Suppose as well that I feel a desire for gain, or else for honor, for a circle of servants, or else the service of others. On these occasions, too, I should stay still as a bump on a log. Suppose I ignore the needs of others, or strive only for my own needs, or else get the urge to simply talk. When I am like this, I should stay as still as a bump on a log. Suppose I can no longer endure or feel laziness and fear. Just so, I might want to act in some uncontrolled way, or engage in some irrelevant chatter, or get the thought to feel some bias for my own kind. At such times, too, I should stay as still as a bump on a log. I should in this way check myself for thoughts filled with mental afflictions, or those thoughts where I want to make some kind of meaningless efforts. Whenever they do come, I should act like a warrior, using the antidotes to keep my mind firm and steady. The power of the virtue is so much more powerful if done all the time, motivated by strong enthusiasm, only by the antidote, or performed toward objects of high spiritual qualities, those who've been of great benefit, or those who are suffering.
That's good. That's it. Thank you. Isn't it beautiful? Isn't it beautiful? That was written 700 AD. Yeah, that's 1500 years ago or something like that. More? Yeah. So let's dedicate. Thank you for sharing this beautiful book.
Sashi
Buki Jushin Metokram Rira Vinshin Degempadi Sange Shindu Niteluargi Roku Namda Shinla Jupasho Iram Guru Ratnamanda Kamniyatayami Digokun Sunam Yeshe Zoksoshin Sunam
thank you again for sharing such a nice class together. May you keep it in your heart. May you grow those two warriors of your own design. May they follow you around until you wake up for the sake of everyone else.
Okay.
Yay.
Thank you for teaching. Please.
Next week, last class.